Kai fata hore jungu malete ilete boira jungu madanye na chene kana jungu madonte donto kana yela jungu mahare na chene kana jungu mamote imene torsi yela saka jungu koinde jungu makoi nyinde sugula
Ni hao, salam alaikum, bonjour, ça va? Très bien, merci. Je m'appelle Madame Cindy Mabi. I travaille beaucoup ACSA. That certainly got your attention, didn't it? And my French is completely depleted, so don't come for me. I'm done. I'm a single mom of two. Don't come for me. Ladies and gentlemen, please may I request that you take up your seats so we can start in earnest. The doors will be locked. It is operated by biometrics. So it takes a special kind of person, an engineer, whose only footprint and his thumbprint and his middle finger can open the door. So you are locked in here. Make yourself comfortable. Sit back, relax, as we start the program in earnest. Having said that, may you please rise to your feet as we sing the national anthem. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for the ACSA choir and for the rendition of the national anthem. I think you probably have another item, and I'm jumping the gun. All right, ngizokhuza. Gentlemen, please take up your seats. I beg your pardon. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please give it up. Show some love for the ACSA choir. Hayi ngiyazama bandla at least A for effort. Hayi why nje economical ngama compliments. Thank you so much CEO. Bengazi ukuthi ujayiva kangaka. Ngathi uzathi mangisingaka bengijayiva ngize ngibe ngaka. But the love that you have for not only the employees of ACSA, and I can tell you they swore me to secrecy but anginasifuba. But the way simthanda ngakhona CEO of the decade. More importantly, your compassion, your love for women empowerment, caring for their families, and especially those who are lower in terms of their rankings, etc. They just said to me, ngamtsheli, but ngiyatshela. Angifuna ukungasho ukuthi uthandiwe. So thank you very much, and everybody, thank you for making the time. It is a big deal. It is a huge occasion that we are here for the ACSA financial year end results for the period 2024-2025. We know that CEO, when she joined the organization, it was right in the crux, in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Then came all the other economic challenges, let alone now with the tariffs. So there's a lot that is at play. But what is most important is that we anticipate that there will be solid results as it's become normal or culture here at ACSA. My name is Cindy Mabi, and I have the enviable job of being your program director. Look at me, Mwehlene. I woke up like this. I woke up like this. I lie. There was a whole class going on. Yeah. All right, so without any further ado, before we do the formal acknowledgements and get this flight to take off, I'd like to draw your attention to the Airports Council International video that will give you a sense of the importance of collaboration, partnerships, the venue that we're at. It's state-of-the-art, eco-friendly. So if you're thinking of hiring a venue for your Bosbarat, for your workshops, your conferences, there's an exhibition center a floor above us, ample parking, and as I mentioned, security is top-notch. The cuisine, as you tasted the breakfast as well, is 5-star. So very luxurious and international building, which is part of the ACSA property portfolio as well. So it's a revenue generating building. With that said, please let's observe and take a look at the Airports Council International video.
We welcome you into the land of endless possibilities and opportunities. Let us fly together. Let us spread the wings of partnership and collaborate.
Warm welcome to all of you to this, the 33rd Annual General Assembly Regional Conference and Exhibition of ACI Africa.
We're hoping that our conversations here today will really ignite your curiosity about what the possibilities are.
As we embark on the journey ahead, let us embrace the spirit of collaboration and partnership, and let us work together to enhance connectivity and efficiency of our aviation systems while driving sustainable growth.
Our own department's acknowledgement and appreciation of ACSA, our preeminent entity that has hosted this event, and we note your unwavering commitment of working even beyond the borders of our country in developing airports and the aviation family in Africa.
We actually released our World Airport Traffic Report, which has new projections for passenger traffic in 2024. Globally, passenger traffic is expected to grow by 10%, reaching 9.5 billion passengers, which is 104% of 2019 levels.
and gentlemen, esteemed guests, welcome to this evening's gala dinner.
This is a night where we celebrate excellence in airport emergency management and resilience.
The ACSA has challenged us and giving us a very bright, very exciting, and I believe all of you are feeling like I am feeling happy because of this great moment.
It was important for us to be part of this because what ACI stands for, to grow Africa and to demonstrate to the world that Africa is not a dark continent. We have standards and we understand quality and we can run things the way they should be run.
So this is all about collaboration. This is all about exchange. This is all about working together. How do we make sure that we create not the airports of the future, but the airports of today? The ones that ensure that aviation is an industry that continues to thrive.
For us to truly reap the rewards of any growth and sustainability that we're able to achieve, we have to come together and work together.
At the airports company, we spend a lot of time thinking about not only our business, but also about how we can make a greater impact beyond the borders of just South Africa.
We've reached the part that we've all been waiting for, the announcement of the winners of the Safety Awards 2024. Recipient of the most anticipated award is Tanzania's Julius Nyerere International Airport. We have reached the end of tonight's award ceremony, but let there be no end to our celebration and recognition for each other in airport emergency management and resilience. I've been your host, Nomalanga Langa, and I'll see you at ACI Africa's Safety Awards 2026.
Tonight's event was amazing. We are happy as ACI Africa. We are happy to be in South Africa.
So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that gives you a sense, again. And I think a reminder, because sometimes we do not celebrate the wins. If you ask anybody in this room what's wrong with South Africa, at the top of your head, I'm sure you're already processing which one goes first. But more often than not, we don't really celebrate our wins. And ACSA is an example of those pockets of excellence that happens in this country. 31 years ago, I don't know who's young enough to remember Jan Smuts Airport. It pales in comparison to what it was. Of course, it was servicing only a select few of our population. Fast forward to 31 years later, OR Tambo International, honey. It's there for leisure, for retail. It's there as a pulse for trade, tourism, and economic activity, let alone all the other internationally acclaimed airports that are under the stewardship of CEO Mpumi Mpofu. So with that, please give the team and CEO a round of applause. Just for the formal acknowledgements, I'd like to welcome the delegation from the National Department of Transport, representatives from the Gauteng Provincial Government, aviation partners and stakeholders, members of the ACSA board, ACSA CEO and CFO, and the executive committee members, members of the media, the service providers that are here, industry leaders. If I haven't acknowledged you, please bring it to my attention if you'd like for us to also mention your name. Quick housekeeping rules. Mobile phones, we know by now that it needs to be on silent or vibrate. I'll tell you anecdotally, recently attending a cousin's wedding, the priest officiating the wedding then comes to that very critical part that says, if there's anybody here that doesn't want to see this couple wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. Everybody's looking back. For that one aunt, that is a bit of a loose cannon. In that moment, the priest's phone rings. So please make sure that you don't become that proverbial priest. The restrooms to your foyer, or rather in the foyer, would be to your right. We also have the Wi-Fi password, which is ACSA at ICC. If you've got that, okay, you can log in. There's a brochure on the desk. Please take a look at it, browse through it. For those of you that are into event hosting, exhibitions, conferences, business forums, national dialogue, you're welcome to speak to the organizers regarding your venue hire. CEO, again, take a bow as we today reflect on the milestones of ACSA over the past 31 years. We'll also take a look at the numbers that CFO will break down for us. But without any further ado, safety is a priority. The cabin doors have been locked and cross-checked. We're just now waiting for the pilot who will give us the safety drill. I'd like to call on Mr. Lipuru to come and give us the safety drill. Thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ACSA IICC. The room that we are in, it's called the plenary ballroom. In case of emergency, siren will ring for no more than 12 seconds. Please don't panic. Take what you are able to take. We have 4 emergency exits in from this room. On the right-hand side, on the far right, there's an emergency exit. The safety evacuation officers will lead you. Through that door, there's an assembly point outside. The second one, still on the right-hand side, in the middle of the room, there's an emergency exit door. Some will go through the door and then will lead outside to the assembly point. On the left-hand side, on the far left, there's an emergency exit door. The door, you'll walk out through the door, turn left, and this assembly point will be able to go through the checklist. Ultimately, those who are in the raw areas, the 2 doors that we use as the entrance, you walk straight through the reception registration desk. There's 2 glass doors open through to the parking. On your right-hand side of the parking is an assembly point. Those who are using the one on the left, on your left-hand side, as you go through the 2 glass doors, there's a assembly point. We'll be able to go through the checklist to ensure that everybody is safe. In case of load shedding, we don't have issues of load shedding, but if it happens, don't panic. The generator will kick in within minutes. Once again, thank you and welcome to ACSA IICC. We hope you'll enjoy the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lepuru. As fate would have it. So my phone just starts ringing because the kids are being picked up for school. But I do apologize. Thank you, Mr. Lepuru, and for keeping your composure, that it didn't throw you off. So, ladies and gentlemen, today is a very tight program that we're running. Time efficiency is very important. And in particular, to also take out the nuggets, the salient points that will come out from today. We know that there had been challenges. We even forgot about load shedding until Mr. Lipuru mentioned it. There was stage 8 at some point. We had to be innovative, find ways to keep the lights on. But here we are today. At least there has been consistent power supply. I'm going to draw your attention now to the ACSA corporate video that will give you also a deeper understanding of the journey that has brought us this far. Thank you.
Investment in infrastructure development, refurb, and upgrade. Airports Company South Africa is a state-owned entity established under the Airports Company Act of 1993 as amended. Affectionately known as ACSA, we are on a mission to acquire, develop, and manage world-class airports and related businesses for the benefit of all our stakeholders and for the socio-economic development of South Africa. we operate 9 airports, including our 3 main international gateways: OR Tambo International Airport, Cape Town International Airport, and King Shaka International Airport. To satisfy anticipated demand, the economic regulator has granted a 4-year permission for a 21.7 billion rand capital expenditure program dedicated to infrastructure development and refurbishment, allowing us to develop world-class airport infrastructure that facilitates seamless movement of people and cargo. The capital expenditure program will boost our vision of being the world's most sought-after partner for providing air management solutions by 2030. A comprehensive infrastructure development plan has been approved and implementation has commenced. ACSA uses master plans and precinct plans to develop infrastructure with a rule of thumb to expand when capacity reaches 70%. The focus is on planned expansions in areas like passenger terminals, cargo facilities, and supporting systems. The capital program is valued at 21.7 billion rand, with 81.2% allocated to refurbishing and rehabilitating existing assets. Additional funding is directed to capacity expansion, commercial projects, statutory compliance, and technology upgrades. Local businesses and SMEs benefit from the program through tender opportunities and labor recruitment, with a focus on Black economic empowerment and community involvement in construction projects. Significant investment is planned for cargo infrastructure, especially at OR Tambo International Airport. A refurbishment program for cargo facilities has been reactivated post-COVID with a goal of increasing capacity to 2.65 million tons by 2030. ACSA is exploring new technologies for airport operations, including solar power installations. Solar PV systems have been installed at regional airports, with plans to expand to international airports like OR Tambo, King Shaka, and Cape Town. Battery storage is also being considered to optimize energy management. The capital program aims to transform ACSA's airports, addressing current congestion and improving infrastructure, including new busing gates and midfield cargo terminals. This will enhance the passenger experience and increase airport capacity, positioning ACSA as a world-class entity. At ACSA, we are committed to creating and delivering shareholder value guided by our statutory mandate. In the ever-evolving world and post-COVID-19 era, we have revised our operating model and implementation of effective change management. Operationally, we have intensified our efforts to fast-track infrastructure maintenance and refurbishment to enhance airport efficiencies. As we actively implement our strategy of innovate, grow, and sustain, we are well positioned to enhance air connectivity in Africa and drive sustainable growth of aviation on the continent. Our capital expenditure program will certainly bolster operational efficiencies and productivity, as well as seamlessly connect travelers to their next goals, opportunities, and destinations. The bulk of the 21.7 billion rand permission is allocated for rehabilitation and refurbishment projects across the airport network, with some of it dedicated to priority expansion projects to cater for the growth in traffic beyond levels last seen in 2019. We are currently working on top priority projects to replace the refurbished aging infrastructure across the airport network to ensure safe and predictable operations. These include, but are not limited to, a comprehensive upgrade to the electrical infrastructure at all major airports, the installation of new technology, UPS and backup generators to ensure continuous operation during power failures, the implementation of redundant systems for instrument landing systems and navigational aids to maintain functionality even in primary system failure, and providing enhanced training programs for technical staff to guarantee preparedness for unforeseen incidents. At OR Tambo International Airport, we are transforming the cargo and logistics hub over the next 3 to 8 years, positioning it as a leading air cargo hub in Africa. This is key to our role in facilitating trade across the continent under the African Continental Free Trade Area. At Cape Town International Airport, we are upgrading essential systems, including instrument landing, weather observation, and airfield lighting to enhance safety and operational efficiency. King Shaka International Airport is also set to benefit from new infrastructure investments that will enhance capacity and connectivity, supporting the growth of this key airport. At the core of our strategy is unlocking economic opportunities across our network of airports, with a particular emphasis on encouraging the participation of SMEs as drivers of economic growth and job creation. ACSA, seamlessly connecting you to your next.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed two panelists, the CEO and CFO. But prior to doing that, let me acknowledge the ACSA board members that are present with us today. And anybody else that I may not have mentioned, my apologies. We will definitely do so as the program proceeds. But other than that, you are welcome again. The CEO doesn't need any introduction. You saw the love that was demonstrated by the choir, and this resonates throughout the organization. She joined ACSA in February 2020, as mentioned, and is the leader and implementer of the strategy for the organization. Prior to being here at ACSA, she also played a role in the presidency in the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, where she was the Director General. And she previously held other positions of a National Director General in the Departments of Defense, Housing, and Transport. And Mpofu was instrumental in the development and approval by Cabinet of the South African Airlift Strategy and the National Airports Infrastructure Framework. She currently holds the position of chairperson of the BRICS Aviation Working Group, tasked with optimizing air travel in the implementation of the BRICS Economic Strategy. With that, we say, Ngumalo, Mkajwa, Zwide Galanga, Ndwandwe, Wena wase kudu nkomo. Please won't you make your way to the podium, CEO. I hope I captured Itagazelo. Welcome, CEO. Welcome. Because we're a diverse nation, and of course we're wrapping up Women's Month, we're going to go into Heritage Month. The clan names is how you edify somebody. Call them by their ancestors, the kingdoms and chiefs that they represent, or the blood lineage from where they come from, the royalty. And that's why we do that. To our fellow South Africans who maybe do not understand why we do certain things. It's my pleasure to introduce the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Luzuko Mbokywa, who joined the organization in December 2023. He brings with him extensive experience in entrepreneurial and commercial business experience spanning over 11 years. He has got a very strong financial background and extensive experience implementing finance strategies, and which was demonstrated during his tenure as CFO in the private sector. Mr. Mbokywa, if you will, yeah, so that we know who you are and whose you are. Over to you, sir.
For me to call my claim names, I'll have to do it in Xhosa. Ndizalwa yintombi yojolo ujolo inkomo uphahla umphankomo uqenge bomzibona na inkwakho. Utata ngodlamini ozizojama kaSijadu. Nkosi.
Nkosi. Nna ke Sindimabi Kgabo Mokgatla ha e namele setlhare e je boreku madi a pela wa Makao. Dimlo. It is my great pleasure to now start the official business of the day by inviting CEO and CFO to go through the presentation and overview of not only the recovery period, the investment, the discipline in allocating finances, and also the trajectory of Airports Company South Africa going forward. Over to you, CEO. My pleasure.
Let me start by acknowledging the presence of representatives from the National Department of Transport, Provincial Department, the board members of ACSA who are here present with us and those that have joined us online, the executives of ACSA, our guests here today, stakeholders, CEOs of aviation companies that have made themselves available and those that have joined us online. Let me also apologize. My normal shop steward voice has decided to play games on me today. I woke up with the flu and I apologize profusely, but we'll go through the day with that voice. Doesn't sound like it normally does, but I apologize for that. We are going to really take you through the results presentation, the CFO and myself, and we're going to start by welcoming on this platform the rest of the ACSA family that has joined us online. We have broadcast into our various airports and for them to be with us at this gathering. Today marks a very important occasion, a celebration of what ACSA has been able to achieve over this particular financial year. And I see that we're a bit solemn, as if we are here to celebrate, colleagues. We are here to be able to demonstrate the resilience of this company and the sterling performance that the collective of those that are in this room that are going to join us on the stage will show, excuse me, what happens when a company, its people, a board that remains committed to delivering value for South Africa, delivering value for the shareholders does. And I would hope that we're able to cross over at this point. We'd like to just introduce, before we start, the various teams of ACSA that are present with us, and starting in that boardroom. Can I get a hand from Kimberly, please? Morning, Kimberly. Thank you. Give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. The next team that will be shown is the Airports Company team. After Kimberly. Are we getting through to another airport, please? No? Okay. We know they're here with us. They are connected. It seems the crossover is turning out to be a little bit difficult. And I'll ask that on that basis, we then proceed with our presentation. And as we do that, knowing full well that we have the full audience of ACSA staff that are sitting at various airports having joined us. We run a 24-hour business. Half of them are at work right now facilitating passengers. They can't join us, but those that can have been assigned a boardroom where they join us for this very auspicious occasion of the release of our results. Sustain the pulse, sustain the pulse, sustain the pulse. Quite appropriate for what describes what ACSA has gone through over the last few years of COVID. And this year marks a breakaway from recovery. It marks excellent financial performance that we're able to demonstrate. But it marks resilience amongst several challenges that we faced as a company, that we faced as the various airports. I'll be taking you through this presentation, and in the presentation, I will deal with very specifically the macro environment, our strategy, and our operating environment. The CFO will then come up and deal with the financial performance and the capital expenditure. I will then return and talk to you about the outlook and conclusions. At that point, we'll be able to take questions and answers from the audience. I understand there are questions and answers from social media as well that we'll be managing. And as we really start in our introduction, quite clearly, ACSA has been challenged this year more than many other years before. We were quite confident that we had come out of the recovery, come out of COVID, but in fact, 24-25 humbled us. It threw on us a number of challenges, operating challenges that led to service disruptions that were unprecedented. And part of those challenges were a reflection of our inability, as we acknowledge, to keep a very close eye on all the aspects of our infrastructure and the level of deterioration and the potential risk that that posed to operations. We boasted about a CAPEX program that we were allocated, but in fact, because of a year's delay in the CAPEX allocation, we had not started implementing the maintenance programs. We acknowledge that. It taught us lessons. It humbled us. It brought us to a point at which we were required to review our preventative maintenance systems, to review our operational efficiency measures, to also review how we garner our stakeholders and work with them tirelessly to implement projects that are mission critical in order to eliminate service disruptions. So we come out of that with a very strong financial performance. And the detail of that will be shared with you. But the strong financial performance is backed up by clearly diligence, discipline in financial management, but also a renewed focus in managing long-term financial sustainability. We've seen many challenges that are beyond us. Economic externalities that were not within our control. I keep reminding people this is the only period I can remember post-1945 where we had 2 wars and were still walking the streets as if nothing had happened. We had a war in Russia and Ukraine. We had a war in Israel and Gaza. And the impact on global aviation that comes with that was so significant that it impacted on our overall performance, as you will see later on. Those global challenges did not deter us, though, in our fervent commitment to creating and delivering value for shareholders. And shareholders and all our stakeholders. In this period, we strategically shifted from the first 5 years of a strategy that was focused on recover and sustain. And we thought we had overcome the impact of COVID. We developed a new strategy that is to take us to the next 5 years, but more importantly, to the next decade. And that strategy is innovate, grow, and sustain. And the emphasis in that strategy is quite simply to focus on innovation, which is used as a catalyst for transformative change, inclusivity, and enhanced passenger experience. And we recognize the catch-up we have to play to match the best in the world of airport operations and make sure that our passengers face a seamless experience, whether they are flying from London to Dubai, to OR Tambo, and to all our airport network. And that importantly requires us to invest in technology, innovation, AI, robotics, facial recognition, and all sorts of exciting technology that will make sure we remain equal to the best in the world. The substance of this period, though, is also going to be marked by a second pillar, which is growth. And our growth strategy, adopted in the year prior in 23-24, marks several initiatives that enable us to grow revenue, to grow the platform, to grow our footprint on the continent, and more importantly, to grow our passenger numbers and establish ourselves, very simply, as the best transformative force, particularly in Southern Africa and Africa. Our sustainability angle looks at ensuring we sustain our operations across through effective and efficient business, supporting communities, and that sustainability backed by an ESG, environment, social, and governance framework, allows us specifically to focus very specifically on our surrounding communities. And we now demarcate them clearly, so there's no ambiguity. It is 10-kilometer radius from an airport, and we define them as part of the airport community. They benefit from our programs, employment, preferential treatment, social programs, education initiatives, social support, and the management of programs related to vulnerable communities within that 10-kilometer radius. And our sustainability program also anchors on our very strong environmental programs, backed up by our carbon accreditation programs, which will ensure that we remain a responsible corporate citizen with minimal environmental impact. We've garnered the accolades. We've struggled through the challenges, but we've remained on top, garnering accolades across the world and winning awards that basically keep us in the leadership position on the African continent in relation to various operations. And these are based on customer satisfaction, and they highlight a truth in customers really reflecting what their experience was. Cape Town wins for the 6th time running the best airport in Africa, the best airport staff in Africa. OR Tambo gets 3rd position this year for the best airport in Africa. And we acknowledge that. Again, Cindy, where are you? I like what you said. Those who remember Jan Smart's airport will know the problems we experience in OR Tambo are related to the oldest parts of the airport that are starting to show strain. And OR Tambo, with the refurbishments that are going to be undertaken, will truly rise like a phoenix out of the ashes in the next few years and recover as the largest airport in our country. King Shaka has retained, ever since it was built, the best regional airport in Africa. And that's a category of slightly smaller airports than OR Tambo. It is joined this year by the Chief David Stearman Airport taking 4th place. King Palo Airport takes 6th place. And we then see a series of other awards that have been won by Airports Company South Africa. The Airport Experience Award to Cape Town International, the best airport hotel in Africa at OR Tambo, which is basically the Intercontinental Hotel. So that basically is a very clear testimony from customers, passengers, of what ACSA has been capable of delivering. It lies on the shoulders of our staff. It lies on the shoulders of who today we proudly unify ourselves with and show that ACSA's success is only achieved through concerted effort, dedication from the CEO right down to the lowest level of worker on the platform in the airport. I'd like you to give a round of applause in singular. Because in sense, on the African continent, we compete with many other airports. And as such, in that competition, ACSA has led and ACSA has continued to provide leadership and support also to those airports. The challenges we faced in the global environment, though, have given us food for thought, but as I indicated earlier, they've taught us how to deal with things that are beyond our control. In this period of this financial year, in the last part of that quarter, a great uncertainty emerged from the USA with sweeping tariff hikes being suggested. The impact of tariff hikes on our economy, and particularly the South African economy, as was indicated to be the one that is going to be most highly hit, have meant that we are not certain in the aviation sector as to the extent of those tariffs, and only I can indicate today are there reports that are suggesting that typically, like South Africa has always done, the tariffs that have been imposed are starting to feel like water off a duck's back. And that's a sign of resilience of this economy. That's a sign of how South Africa is able to diversify its economy and ensure that we're able to live above what are global threats that we may face. We look forward to understanding fully the implications of those tariffs, but we've already seen signs that suggest that we have alternative strategies to mitigate the negative impacts of the tariffs. One of the negative impacts that this has had, you will see later, relates to our overall performance on aeronautical revenue, which in the fourth quarter, we could have seen a surge, but because of this global economic uncertainty, the fourth quarter on aeronautical revenue was showing a decline. We also have seen a decline in the sub-Saharan region of Africa in air cargo and business travel, and uncertainty in infrastructure investments and cross-border airport partnerships. What all of this presents for us on the African continent is an opportunity for realignment, for refocus, and more importantly, an opportunity to prioritize the things we should do to support the African continental free trade area and to grow cargo on the continent. So we've been operating under a very volatile geopolitical landscape. And in that, it has impacted also on the intra-Africa travel trade. It has impacted on what we call the war zones. And typically what happens in the war zones is that they become no-fly zones. And the restriction of aviation above Gaza, above Ukraine, places an inordinate cost on the aviation and airlines that fly across those regions, because they have to divert and go all the way around avoiding those regions. So very often airlines take a decision to reschedule, reduce the number of flights that are high-costed, or to cancel them, or to minimize that impact on their baseline. So as an airport, we've been managing these various difficult challenges, and in doing so, we have had to place strategic initiatives that help us to navigate. Global traffic at end of March in this financial year has recovered, and it has been a very exciting 9.5 billion of passengers. We are just short in South Africa at 92% of meeting the 2019 figures. What this also indicates is that we've had, in the period, a 3.3% year-on-year increase in the revenue passenger kilometers. The other indicator is a decline in 80.7% of load factor. Now, the load factor decline is quite an interesting one. It comes on the back of the industry placing more capacity in this period and therefore resulting in a higher load factor. But the confidence that leads the industry to place more capacity is really what we earmark, and that is exciting news. We note that that load factor, once the capacity has been placed, can quite simply show a resurgent because the capacity has been committed by airlines, and that confidence, it's a cyclical relationship, that confidence on its own will give birth to higher load factors that will result. We've also been led largely by performance in the various regions. And the regions impact on us, but also as we are part of the African region overall, there we see a 44.1% increase in growth rates for airlines, particularly the African airlines. What we do note is that it's very important in this region for us to continue with relationships with our normal source markets. So we look at Europe, which has had a 4.4% year-on-year increase on traffic, North America, which has had a fall of 1.1% and a 3.5% drop. Latin America has also had a growth of 6.2%, with Brazil particularly, our BRICS partner, showing exciting growth at 8.9% in that region. So the analysis of our source markets that lie in those areas is an important issue for us, particularly from a tourism perspective, but now more so as well from a trade perspective, given our trading partners and particularly within the BRICS formation. Global performance was also seen here by segment and region, and important to just note the contribution to the global performance of international aviation, which remains in the red bars at its highest, again in the period, declining somewhat towards the end of the financial year. Similarly, you would see the industry-wide revenue passenger kilometers, year-on-year growth, and that we've segmented by regions so that you can see the highest contributor as clearly Asia Pacific. And Asia Pacific continues to dominate in that market, second almost to Europe, and then followed by North America. The global cargo performance from a demand perspective has grown by 4.4% year on year and has reached peak of the month. And what we're able to see is very interestingly how the different regions have performed. Concerning is Africa's decline, specifically on the cargo ton kilometers, but more importantly, the decline in Middle East. We've tried to do some analysis about this Middle East factor, because as you all know, the aviation sector in Middle East is growing, leaps and bounds. But for some reason, the issue of the cargo operations in the Middle East was quite disappointing in the March 2025 cycle. What is also important is just an analysis of what has happened in the Africa to Asia route analysis for cargo ton kilometers, where there was a surge in March 2023, another surge in January 2024, and this is significant because those surges actually set up a very important trend line for the business between Africa and Asia, which clearly is demonstrated to be on a growth trajectory here. On the supply side, quite importantly, we've seen an expansion of 4.3%, and we've seen international operations up by 6.1%. The capacity is split in terms of belly hold, which is at 53%, and freighters at 47%. Again, that typical decline is the 2020 COVID number, but excitingly, the upswing is a steady incline and steady growth of cargo, given in the diagram that basically in the chart. On the other side, we show you the international cargo by business type, and an important trend that we see there is the disappearance of what are called freighters. We had a new phenomenon in COVID period, which are called freighters. And we see freighters up to 2023 literally declining. And what are freighters? Freighters are when the industry got very, very creative, when nobody was flying, when there were very clear travel restrictions, and took empty aircrafts, removed the seats, and used the empty aircrafts for cargo, because cargo was showing great resilience. So it's a combination of a passenger freight aircraft, hence freighter. And that phenomenon in yellow emerged and then very soon disappeared. And therefore we see sustenance and resilience in the underbelly cargo, and that means when an aircraft carries passengers on the top level, because they are now wide-bodied aircrafts, they also carry quite an extensive amount of cargo underbelly, which means the lower levels. And by definition, that is beginning to sustain in addition to what are the traditional dedicated aircrafts that come from the freight, dedicated freight industry. What we also see here is industry-wide flights and industry scheduled flights. What we do see is a 3%, 3.5% year-on-year from March to April compared to the same period. And again, the beauty about the aviation industry, you will always see a steady incline unless there is a disruption that comes from externalities. And that we see consistently throughout the months, year-on-year comparison, including the 2025 yellow charts that really show that sustained growth that is going forward into the years. That growth trend is very exciting. It presents less uncertainties, but more importantly, tells us a story of global scheduled flights increasing on a steady pace. We've not arrived where we want to be, but those global trends are very important for us because they tell us what it is that we should be doing as Airports Company South Africa, what we should be pursuing and prioritizing in our own strategy. And as I indicated earlier, we've seen a strategy shift from recover and sustain to innovate, grow and sustain. And that strategy quite clearly is underpinned by an operating model that aims to achieve efficiency and aims to ensure that our strategic focus and our business strategy can be driven and supported. In the engine room of operations of what ACSA is, we have reconfigured our airports in order to sustain, but more importantly, to allow for efficiency. Previously, ACSA arranged itself with the 3 big airports, and the smaller airports were called regional airports, and they were operating in one cluster. The operating model under this strategy looks specifically at clustering airports in a regional configured way, but in a relationship between what we call the Golden Triangle big airports, which are there to support the smaller airports. And that symbiotic relationship between smaller airports and large airports is really the beginning of a network infrastructure that recognizes the specific role that's played by Bloemfontein in relation to OR Tambo, by Uppington in relation to Cape Town, by Chief David Stearman in relation to King Shaka, because that relationship of getting effectiveness in the network is achieved through embedding these airports in the regional economic growth strategies of those areas, on maximizing opportunities for growth, development, and also linking up to what the regions and provinces are planning from an economic development perspective. All of this is supported very specifically by business support elements of human resources for training, finance, and corporate services. So in our Innovate, Grow, and Sustain strategy, which shifts us from recover and sustain, quite clearly are new exciting initiatives that will underpin a new approach that ACSA is adopting. The Innovate pillar is primarily the full implementation of our digital transformation. We've set out a vision to become one of the best smart airport networks in Africa, and we think this is quite clearly achieved. And what are smart airports? Smart airports are airports that are driven by technology, that are driven by efficiency, that are driven by maximal deployment of technology in order to enhance passenger experience and operate effectively. They're also supported by data analytics in order to inform ourselves around feedback and, more importantly, to use data intelligently to determine how to improve on the business performance. The growth strategy is underpinned by aerotropolis development and airport city development, and in that area we're quite clear. The three main airports in the Golden Triangle, which is OR Tambo, Cape Town, King Shaka, have already been designated aerotropoli, and they will implement this program as we move forward. A lot of work has been done historically, and we continue to implement. The other airports, though, the smaller ones, have great potential for becoming airport cities. We already have proposals for an emerging airport city around Uppington, with a lot of the activities of SKA, of aeronautical airport parks, and a whole plethora of activities that are happening in that Northern Cape region. For those in the know, Northern Cape is probably going to see a growth spurt that none of us have imagined. And so we link to those in Uppington in order to produce an airport city that will emerge. Air cargo growth, we've committed, as we indicated, to an air cargo terminal at OR Tambo. OR Tambo is by far more than 50% of our operations, but we believe on the African continent, South Africa is the only country that can really, truly be the center of air cargo because of our manufacturing capability, but also because of our export potential. And so that opportunity to ensure we take our rightful place as being the source of produced goods that are taken onto the African market, OR Tambo Air Cargo Terminal becomes key. Route expansion across the network to many areas becomes the other element. On the sustain, financial sustainability is our focus, and financial sustainability is a very important area, but we believe in South Africa, and as the results will show, we do quite well in this area. Important also is we have financial governance systems from the Auditor General to IFRS to a whole range of financial governance systems that help us achieve this without too much difficulty. The other area important is the conclusion of our ESG strategy and reporting, which really will ensure that we remain accountable and we can report the operations of ourselves and our stakeholders across the board. So what does that performance of ACSA look like? Let me start with the good news. The good news is out of our 11 KPIs at ACSA, we achieved 10. In this financial year, that achievement, we believe, is just extraordinary. We were challenged with many things. On financial sustainability, our EBITDA exceeded the target at 2.8 billion. Our CAPEX allocation, which was 727 million, was exceeded by the achievement of 850 expenditure on CAPEX. I must indicate that on this KPI, we missed it the previous year. So achieving it in this year was a clear outcome of dedication and resilience and hard work that was put in by the team. Aeronautical revenue, we achieved 4.061 billion and against the target of 4.122 billion. Very importantly as well, that is just missing it by 61 million. We don't think that's insignificant, we missed it, but we think it's a relatively small amount. And that is really derived from the issues of international travel, of the disruptions, of the uncertainty, of our international airlines not rising up and committing the total number of frequencies that they have or even the uptake. So that global tension that I almost exaggerated in my outline is exactly where it translates to here, because it then bites us on the international side. We believe the domestic market has recovered and it's leveled off. There's nothing more you can do to the domestic market. It's sufficient. And again, we also have issues around a little bit of uncertainty on different airlines in the domestic market. So in a sense, the largest contributor to that minus 61 million is actually the international travel and their global uncertainty we've spoken to. Non-aeronautical revenue has been our stellar performance, exceeding the target there at 3.6 billion. Our reputation index was also achieved, marginally we say, at 61.5, and we know we have a lot more work to do in this area. We know we've had a lot of challenges around reputation management, particularly given the service disruption and a whole host of other issues that have plagued us. We also know that our people cannot separate when BMA, the Border Management Authority, has a challenge, and when we have a challenge that is out of our control. But all of it we're responsible for, and the management therein with our stakeholders is really going to become a key priority as we move on next year. Passenger satisfaction is at 3.9, which exceeds the target. Operational efficiency is something we introduced ourselves before the regulator even added their own, and we've exceeded it at 1.7%. Our BE level remains at level 2. Our ambition is to become level 1 in this particular financial year. And importantly, the next transformation KPI is the percentage of black business share of commercial revenue, which we achieved at 68% compared to the 60%. We created more than 5,000 jobs more than our target at 23,959. And that's a function of the resurge in CAPEX, where we're starting to spend money on projects. It's also because of our insourcing program, but largely it just indicates a very healthy contribution to this important economic indicator of jobs that are created through ACSA. Our carbon accreditation was achieved as well. We've maintained the level 2 accreditation in the airports that are listed there, and we were able to achieve level 3 for King Shaka Airport as well as a requirement of our targets. So 90.9% achievement. I don't know, my head teacher at school would have said that has 5 stars in it. And thank you very much to the ACSA team for that. We also then just reflect on our operating environment, and this is to give you a sense of the performance of our various airports. OR Tambo, with just under 50% of the overall passenger numbers, is sitting there in the 425 year, 9,280 departing passengers, also 9.28 million departing passengers. And we can see as well for the others, Cape Town at 5.2, King Shaka at 2.5, and the smaller airports are indicated very clearly there. So the total for the financial year was 18.97 million. We still are at 92% of our 2019-2020, and that gap of closing that 8% is something that we really believe we would be able to in 25, 26, and more importantly, definitely by 26, 27. It doesn't worry us too much because in a sense what we are busy with is the infrastructure investment program that then will expand the terminals and ensure that we can cater for even those numbers. The performance by market segment, which is the differential between international, regional, and domestic, show very clearly that international at 92%, regional at 94%. We've had a pleasant surprise from the regional area, even if it's coming off a low base, but at 94%, our regional performance is really impressive. And then domestic, as I'd indicated, has really leveled off. You have as much as you can put through the domestic market at 90% performance. Aircraft movements and share by airline of movements, we can't tell you airline by passenger numbers, it's top secret information. But on the ATMs, we can share that with you. And that basically indicates we've managed 230 landings in this period, reaching 92%, and 12 points of the 100, and Cape Town, excitingly with the growth phenomenon of tourism in Cape Town, has come in at a recovery rate of ATMs at 112%. I think that deserves a round of applause. OR Tambo has remained within trend with the 95% of that, and that's basically where we are generally. The one difference is that Cape Town is surging far ahead of everybody else. They've got more international airlines coming in. There's a great tourism market that's going. They've got a great West Grove that's championing out and getting those airlines to come in. And as such, the results are here for all to see and are very clear. SAFAir then remains out of ATMs at 24%, which is very clear market dominance, and Airlink at 22%. And again, the data we provide here as well is to share with you the performance per airport, which gives you a very clear indication of where we stand with respect to our airports. I will pause at this point and then ask the CFO to come in and deliver the financials, the good news, the really, really great news, the really, really fantastic, fantastic news, and I'll come back and conclude. Thank you, CFO.
Thank you, CE. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our beautiful ACSA Conference Center. The 2024-25 financial year was really a year of financial resilience for ACSA, a year where we were building capacity, building capability, so that we really are better poised to deliver to our clients, customers. We had a robust performance, growth, and it is indicated on this dashboard, a fitting reflection of our transition from recover and sustain to a new strategy that speaks to innovate, grow, and sustain. Reflected in these numbers is profit before tax that grew by 20%, from a number of 1.5 billion in the previous year to 1.8 billion in the current year. When you look at these numbers, you might confuse us with one of the listed entities. But we're getting there. This was bolstered by growth in revenue from a 7 billion in the previous year to a 7.9 billion in the current year, which translates to about 13% year on year. And this is really underpinned by the traffic that CE has already alluded to. While we are not yet at pre-COVID-19 numbers, but we're quite comfortable and happy as management that we are actually seeing signs of growth. And as indicated, we do anticipate that we should be able to close the gap between now and COVID in the next 2 years. So, as we must be assured that we will be increasing this revenue quite significantly in the next couple of years. It gives us enough headroom to even grow our revenue, at least in the next 2 years. Our operating expenditure also increased from a number of 4.2 billion in the previous year to a 4.9 billion in the current year. And again, this really speaks to what I mentioned earlier, building capability at ACSA. We had COVID. We lost a number of employees due to cost savings interventions that were implemented. And now that our traffic is growing significantly, we ought to then also capacitate. And that really what speaks to this number of 4.9 in the current year. Our profit for after tax last year, 472 million, which increased by almost 136% in the current year to a 1.1 billion. This is now after tax. This really speaks to ACSA creating value for our shareholders. And I would like us to give a round of applause for that. Our earnings before tax, last year we were reporting a 2.7 billion, in the current year a 2.9 billion. And this really speaks to efficiency, management of cost while growing our revenue. Capital expenditure, part of the 21 billion that we always speak about, we have started to ramp up. In the current year, we have actually incurred expenditure of about 861 million compared to the 568 million that we incurred in the previous year. And this ramps up, colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, in the next couple of years. We have 21 billion that we are planning to spend. Dividends declared in the previous year, we declared 815 million in the previous year, split between preference share dividends of 776 and a 47 million towards ordinary dividends. In the current year, I must indicate that our ordinary dividends have increased from a 47 million to 113 million. And that really is an outstanding performance as far as giving back to the shareholder. Our preference share have also increased, not increased, but we're paying preference share of 198 million in the current year. Now, the difference between what we paid last year and the current year, we had accrued for a number of years, and for the first time, then we had to clear the accrued and unpaid dividends billion in the current year. And this is expected to improve even more in the future year as we spend on capex. This gives us just a bit of detail behind the numbers. Aeronautical, non-aeronautical revenue both increased 13%, 12%, which translates to a 12% total revenue increase from a 7 billion as indicated to a 7.9. Employee cost also increasing by 31%. OPEX increasing by 12%. That speaks to the capacity and capability building, which then landed us at an EBITDA of 4% year-on-year growth. Our EBITDA margin of 37%, slightly lower than the previous year. And again, this is a function of our cost increasing slightly more than what our revenue increased. And again, this is in the main, the traffic that we had focused at that we did not achieve due to the geopolitical challenges that we encountered, where our aeronautical revenue did not increase as expected. Our cost to income has also slightly increased. And again, this speaks to our cost slightly increasing more than our income. And this is deliberate, ladies and gentlemen. We are building capacity. In the future years, these numbers look actually much better because then our cost will be maintained at increasing at an inflation-related rate. We had our depreciation. We are a capital-intensive entity. We have significant depreciation. Our investment income has also improved in the current year from a 368 million to 500 million, and this really speaks to us optimizing returns as we collect our cash, placing it with our various banks, and making sure that we maximize and optimize the returns that we then receive from our banks. Finance costs have decreased in the current year, and again, this speaks to us managing our debt quite effectively. You will see that our gearing has actually improved quite significantly in the current year. All in all, ladies and gentlemen, our profit after tax, before tax, improved by 22%, while our profit after tax improved by 138%. We're quite pleased with the split between the aeronautical and non-aeronautical because it speaks to diversification. We were hit during COVID when people don't fly, our aeronautical revenue gets hit. But our strategy, it is to actually diversify and really unlock some of the opportunities in the non-aeronautical, which in principle, it's non-travel related revenue. This next slide just gives us just an overview of how our aeronautical revenue has performed in the current year. Quite pleased to share that in total, whilst we did not achieve the forecasted traffic, but we still showed signs of growth in our aeronautical, from the 3.6 billion to 4.1 billion in the current year, which is a whopping 13% increase. And in the main, ladies and gentlemen, the three international airports, which are our flagship airports, are the main contributors to this revenue. But we are seeing signs of growth also in the smaller airports, which is quite pleasing for us, because then it speaks to even further diversification of our business. The next slide then speaks to non-aeronautical revenue, which is mainly driven by the retail, growing by 10%. These are all the stores that you see at our airports. Property rentals, parking, car hire, hotel operations, all showing signs of growth. We're quite pleased with these numbers. This is one area that we really intend to bolster and grow quite significantly in the coming years as we implement our non-aeronautical strategies. And these colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, the conference center is part of those interventions where we are growing our non-aeronautical revenue. Our expenditure for the year increased by 19% from a 4.1 billion to 4.9 billion, split between OPEX and employee cost. On the graph on the right-hand side gives us a split of this expenditure. In the main, we have repairs and maintenance of about 546. And this is really fast-tracking our refurbishment, our repairs and maintenance, which we had put on hold during the COVID years. And our focus really it is to get our airports to the standards that it ought to be. And the 546 is just the beginning of our spend towards repairs and maintenance. So really what this says, ladies and gentlemen, is as we enter our airports in the next coming years, we will not have issues with ablutions, we will not have issues with cleanliness in our airports, because this is what this picture actually addresses. Security, 511. IT, which speaks to, again, innovate, grow, and sustain. And this is a testament of us actually implementing then that strategy that speaks to innovation. In the main, in that strategy, it is IT. Cleaning, rates and taxes, and these are all property-related expenditure, which also grew in the current year. The next picture just gives us a view of our financial position, and quite happy and pleased to share with you that we continue to have and run a solvent entity. We continue to run a liquid entity. Our return on equity in the current year, 5.6%, which more than doubled to what we generated in the previous year of 2.5%. Our gearing for the bankers that are here has improved quite significantly in the current year from a 17% to an 8% in the current year. And this was quite deliberate because we want to really build give ourselves a headroom as we go to the market and raise more debt to then fund the 21 billion. And it really puts us in a favorable position with our banks. Return on capital employed increased from a 3.6% in the previous year to a 5.7% in the current. And again, this picture, ladies and gentlemen, talks to creating value for our stakeholders. Cash flow activities in the current year, we started with a 2.8 billion of cash. We generated from our operations at 3.3 billion, received interest of 276 million. We invested about 1.3 billion towards our short-term investments. We've paid interest and paid our maturing debt of about 887 million, which then landed us with a 2.6 billion cash after all these activities. And they must indicate that this exclude our short-term investment. So if you take our short-term investment and then we add it and load it to the 2.6, we are sitting at about just over 5.5 billion of cash. And you don't often find this in companies of our size. The next picture just gives us an overview of how our gearing has performed over the years. Started at 2.23% in 2021. That improved to 24%, 2023. In the 2 years ago, we had reported a 17%. And in the current year that we are reporting, an 8% improvement. Our debt maturity profile, we have 2 instruments that are maturing in the next couple of years, in 2028, 2029, which is an inflation-linked bond. We also have a preference share that is also maturing in 2030, 31. And the inflation-linked bond is about 2.5 billion, and while the preference share instrument is about 3.4 billion. We do have refinancing strategies in place, and we'll be going out to the market to attend to these maturities that will take place in the next couple of years. In terms of our key credit matrix, this is what we measure in relation to our performance. Our net debt to capital, it's below 65%, it's currently at 8% as indicated. And our target, our threshold is 65%, so there's, and again, enough headroom there. We're currently reporting in the current financial year an 8%. Net debt to EBITDA ratio, currently at a multiple of, we are below the multiple of 4, which is a target, currently at 0.6. Same with the DSCR ratio, currently at a 5.5, way above the 1.5 multiple. So what this means is we are actually effectively managing the cash flows of the entity. I must indicate as well that we had one loan covenant, which we have not been in breach, and quite happy that even when we look at next 12 months, we do not anticipate to breach any loan covenants. In fact, there's only one that matures early next year, and will be free from any covenants going forward. And really, again, this gives us a better runway for us to then engage banks, because there are no restrictions currently with regards to our debt. Our ordinary dividends, as indicated, and preference share dividends last year, having paid at 768 million, and I did indicate that this has increased, especially for the ordinary shares. The board has declared 113 million of dividends in the current year compared to the 47 million in the previous year, while our preference shares have reduced to 198 million of dividends in the current year. Over the period, we have paid almost about 5 billion of dividends to our shareholders, and this is what you don't often find with SOEs. We are injecting back to the fiscus of the company, of the country, and we're quite pleased with our continued injection to the fiscus of the country. In the next 12 months, we anticipate to remain quite liquid, having opened the year with a 5.4 billion of cash. We anticipate that we will generate receipts of about 8.9 billion, and then we'll end the year, well, not the year, but in 12 months' time, we will be sitting at about 3.8 billion of cash. And again, this is really a reflection of a company that is liquid, a company that is financially healthy. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, just to recap that our revenue has grown by 13%, underpinned by the growth in traffic. Our non-aeronautical revenue has also grown, which speaks to revenue diversification and really speaks to also resilient financial performance by ACSA. Our EBITDA of 2.9 billion, which translates to a 37% margin, EBITDA margin, while our profit grew to a 1.1 billion from the 472 million in the previous year. CapEx has improved to 861 in the current year. It really demonstrates a commitment by ACSA to reinvest to the operations of the entity, infrastructure and capacity building. Our asset base has improved, while our liquidity buffer has also improved in the current year. Dividends have been declared to our shareholders, and we will continue to declare these dividends to our stakeholders. Repayment of the AFD loan in 2026, which will then eliminate the covenant that we currently have with our financial stakeholder. And what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is ACSA continues to really have a healthy financial performance, a strong balance sheet, healthy cash flows. And we're quite happy and pleased with our results, albeit the challenges that we faced in the current year operationally, traffic not being banked as anticipated. But what we've done as an entity is to manage costs quite effectively so that we still remain as profitable as indicated. Our capital infrastructure and spend in the current year did improve last year, 568 million, the current year and 861 million. And this really speaks to going back and reinvesting to all the infrastructure that are key to the company. IT, capital infrastructure, operations. If you look at the picture below, it shows that our biggest investment is refurbishment and rehabilitation. And it really speaks to giving back to our customers, improving the quality of our airports, so that really when you step into our airports, you recognize the investments that we've made. And this infrastructure that we are investing, colleagues, really is to attempt to really wake up the sleeping giant that is ACSA, so that we take our own rightful place, not only in the continent, but also globally, because we really are a force to be reckoned with as this entity. I will close there and hand over to my CE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFO. Another round of applause, please. We are besides ourselves with joy. We are exhilarated. We are so grateful to every single member of staff at ACSA because they have truly contributed towards the achievement of this. So these results really are results that come from the dedication of our people, from the collaboration with our stakeholders, and more importantly, with just the attitude that our people have of always, always being of service. We've had challenges, as we indicated, and as clearly as we have shown, we have learned our lessons. We have understood what declining infrastructure starts to look like in the final years if a CAPEX program does not get implemented speedily. We have understood what operational disruptions mean to the thousands of passengers that have been upset because they've missed their connecting flight and they've not been able to get to their destinations on time. We regret every minute of it. But we stand on the shoulders of a company that clearly has shown resilience and can project forward, as we will indicate here in the outlook. The CAPEX allocation outlook, therefore, shows a 3 times allocation of 2.3 billion, as opposed to the 727 million we indicated. We did say we exceeded that target of 272 in the previous financial year. A clear demonstration that our systems, our processes, our capabilities, our people are well positioned for a higher CAPEX expenditure at a higher trajectory. And that 2.3 billion with 151 refurbishment projects, with 220 as a total, puts us in a very good position to roll out a platform, to roll out a new airport environment that will be amongst the best in the world. So you'll see a year of consolidation, of resilience, of implementing these refurbishment projects, You'll see us focusing on efficiency, on technology, on compliance. We are a highly regulated entity. We are regulated from a safety perspective, a security perspective. We're regulated in terms of the types of infrastructure we must have. We're regulated in our interface with the airlines, our interface with ground handlers, our interface with jet fuel suppliers. Sometimes we have issues that are beyond our control. And I must say, referring to jet fuel, the issue of energy security in South Africa remains a challenge for the country. The context is that it poses a specific challenge on us as airports company South Africa. And so you will see our commitment is simply about doing as much as we can as airports company to rehabilitate the jet fuel infrastructure. But there's another challenge that we can't solve, and that is the fact that South Africa now has one refinery instead of two. The fact, and the Satrev refinery was closed in Durban. The second is that South Africa is now extremely dependent on imports, on fuel, more than it ever has been in the past. So when there's service disruptions around that import chain, it impacts on us. We normally say the only sin we have as airports company South Africa is that we're the biggest consumer at 3.5 million liters a day. That's our sin. 3.5 per day. That's what we consume. And if the market cannot supply us 3.5 million liters a day, that is what you see as disruption. But in essence, we work together with all the stakeholders at every level to ensure that South Africa will have and continue to have enough fuel that is secure as well. So what you do see here, as acknowledgement of the point I made earlier, is we've taken a significant proportion of our CAPEX and we've ensured that we're focusing on refurbishment and rehabilitation. If you look at that bottom bar, that is a clear demonstration that we're not even ambitious to look at capacity yet, because the platforms we have must be brought back to international standards, and that allocation for rehabilitation and refurbishment is the largest of the 21.7 billion we're allocating. Capacity is very limited, but most of you are passengers. You know the story. When you go to Cape Town on a Friday afternoon, not so pleasant. The domestic terminal at departures has become quite small, and that becomes an immediate priority for us to expand the terminal. Those who travel to King Palo will know, being at King Palo Airport on a Sunday when most of the commuters are coming back, not pleasant. Those who travel to Chief David Stearman will know that the terminal is in need of expansion. Those who are at George Airport will also tell you, we've got an unexpected surge of traffic in George, and the terminal is not even big enough. So all those terminal expansions are literally what you're going to see being implemented under that capacity and what we've allocated. And then we have key capital projects up to 2032, and those include OR Tambo. We are going to be starting the implementation of the midfield cargo terminal, and I must indicate right now that the team, and the team leader was here just now, the team has already started what are called enablement works, which really will take us forward in the fast implementation of that cargo terminal. We currently have a cargo capacity of about 450,000 tons. This new terminal building will take us up with 1.2 billion tons, metric tons, and that basically gives you about 1.5 million metric tons in the first phase of the cargo terminal, and then we'll be developing more, which takes us to the 2.3 that you saw earlier. The other exciting, and midfield means between the two runways. And that means that's exactly where it's going to be developed. And that brings bigger efficiencies, and that means it operating literally at full throttle. After the cargo midfield, there's another project which is called Midfield Passenger Terminal Complex at OR Tambo, which will also go to midfield, and a brand new terminal. Those of you who travel extensively will know that when you have a midfield terminal, you normally take a train or something to go to the other side. Yeah, we'll have that exciting thing with a train link that takes you to midfield in the passenger terminal. International busing gates, for those who travel to, trying to make this as practical so you can see it and live it. International busing gates are when you're traveling to the African continent and the small regions, the flights to Maputo, Botswana, etc. That's getting a total refurbishment, that whole area. And so will what we call the sea gates, dark, dingy sea gates, for those on the domestic side, are also getting a brand new feel on that side of the airport. We're doing extension to domestic terminal in Cape Town, lounges, arrival terminal, and the very important project of the realignment of the Cape Town runway. That realignment gives us greater capacity, greater efficiencies in Cape Town, and we can land more aircrafts and cope with the current constraints that we have. The various infrastructure and refurbishments then, 1,158 airport infrastructure and maintenance projects, 78 corporate projects, that means related to the corporate office, energy demand, and we spoke to you about really going, one day we wish we could truly become off-grid. And we felt more when there was load shedding than we do now. So that's a very important project for us to become totally off-grid in the energy demand, but also with the solar projects and the various gas-to-power tri-generation plant that we'll be implementing. So what does the outlook for the next 5 years look like? In essence, we'll be implementing our Innovate, Grow, and Sustain strategy. We'll be pushing high technology, updating the systems, and utilizing best-of-class technologies so that our airports qualify as smart, but also that they are future-proofed and that the business is operating at its efficiency. We're going to roll out the balance of the 21.7 billion of the permission, just basically to ensure we improve passenger experience. We're going to strengthen our controls, governance, and supply chain. Very important issue here at ACSA. When you have a 21.7 billion, yeah, the problems begin. Because everybody wants some, I want some, so-and-so wants some. And therefore, our procurement processes have to be corruption-proof, unethical behavior-proof, and interference-proof. It's really something a company like ours has to ensure we're able to achieve. Otherwise, we'll look back one day and the 21.7 billion would not have hit the ground. It would have leaked to some unfortunate places, and we'll have commissions of inquiry that suggest that we must investigate who did what. But the system that we basically are putting forward in the procurement environment is to actually protect that investment and make sure value is delivered for shareholders and that every cent ends up exactly where it's meant to end up. And there's no leakages, there's no corruption, there's minimum interference, and South Africans get what they deserve. Because in essence, colleagues, all of this is funded by passengers in their tariffs, is funded by the fees we charge, is funded by you. And therefore, our levels of accountability for what we invest, how we manage your money, is actually a top priority for the company. We'll also ensure we continue with our international relations and collaborations. We're a member of BRICS. We operate in that environment. We keep seeking opportunities for airports company to provide expertise and support to other airports outside of our own network. But importantly as well, in our focus on innovation, would be establishing a continental innovation hub as we lead in the area of innovation. I think we mentioned earlier that we Innovation is now one of our pillars, but what's important about that pillar is we're partnering with CSIR and the Innovation Hub, best in class in South Africa, research institutions that know what innovation are about, in order to make ACSA really the platform where the country quantum leaps to the next generation. We also manage our debt proactively, maintain liquidity, and also adapt macroeconomic as well as industry dynamics. In conclusion, therefore, we remain aligned, agile, ascending, and continue to really deliver sustained shareholder value. We believe stakeholder value as well, because our primary responsibilities are to enable our stakeholders to perform at their best. We support national economic programs, and we position our airports as globally competitive and socially responsible. We also would look at the strong performance, which is driven by a very disciplined strategy execution, robust governance, which has given us the 13% year-on-year increase, reaching 7.9 billion revenue. We were at 7.0 the previous year. The declaration of a dividend, we think is a good thing to do. We've declared the 310, but what it actually shows is the confidence of this company to be able to deliver shareholder value and ensure future funding. So the questions may already be ringing in people's heads about the slight difference in the preferential share dividend that we've paid this year, which is less than last year. And that's simply because we didn't pay in the first few years of COVID, and we had a front-loaded dividend. So let there not be a conclusion that we're giving less to the preference share. The more important one is the ordinary share dividend that has increased from 47 to 113. That's the real measure of value creation for shareholders. As we go through the reporting cycle, therefore, the strategic procurement would need to support SMMEs, women-led companies, youth-led companies, and creating the jobs that are necessary. Our strategy will focus on delivering value, operational efficiency, revenue expansion, financial resilience, and just long-term growth. We'll continue to strengthen our airport value chain and enhance state capability in advancing inclusive growth and regional socio-economic development. The role of ACSA in this economy, we believe, is still to be seen. The role of aviation, air cargo, in trade facilitation and promotion of tourism is the foundation we're building in order to have a meaningful contribution to sustained economic growth, not only for the company, but for the country and for our people. We thank you for your attention. We'll take questions.
CEO and CFO, thank you again for the financials. It was anticipated that these would be solid results because we know you are a formidable team. As you said, CFO, you're a force to be reckoned with, and your work is not done as yet because the rest of the continent depends on you so that we can replicate the standard of excellence that we have. CE, you anticipated a lot of the questions that our audience is asking both online, on social media, and on Teams. If I may please request the colleagues in various parts of the country. In Kimberley, we saw you. King Shaka, we saw you as well. Add your questions to the tab that says Q&A and not in the chat box because those disappear or they get lost in transit. So please put your questions in the Q&A section. I'm just going to shoot straight ahead. Cyril Moodley from the Airlines Association of Southern Africa highlights the disruptions of the fuel or jet fuel as you touched on, CE. and the projects to bypass the fuel systems and backup generators, what is being done about that. We'll take questions in 5 batches. The other one is from Ziyad Ziggy Mohammed, who says, when will construction begin at the Wartambo cargo terminal, and including the midfield passenger terminal? Another one is, how is ACSA preparing for alternative aviation energy sources, such as biofuels and hydrogen? Are you good? Before I forget, there is one on opportunities for small, medium enterprises as service providers in all sectors, or rather all the value chain. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to proceed?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for the questions to those that have posted the questions. We really appreciate it. I think let me just give a more detailed account in relation to jet fuel, because there is an interest in us articulating very clearly what we've done. In my presentation, I just referred to it very in summary form. So the first thing that we had to do in the jet fuel space is to create a bypass. And that basically is a new system that would have bypassed the particular valve that was problematic at the time the incident occurred. So that was the first exercise. We invested money, we did the bypass, it was implemented, it was successful. The second part is that we had to do what's called an 18-inch line, which is a replacement of a second jet fuel line. And we just thought, to be extra cautious, let's also replace the 20-inch line so that we have redundancy and basically minimize the risk of any failure. So between the bypass and the 18-inch and the 20-inch, if there's a system failure on one, we click to the other. So at the end of implementation of this, we would have ensured that we've created sufficient redundancy in the system and mitigated the risk of ever having an incident of the jet fuel or the nature of the jet fuel that we had. The additional issue, because we are so careful at ACSA, once bitten, twice shy, is we re-looked at our fuel storage capacity, and we now have a proposal for the expansion of the fuel tanks. That basically means the airport can then cater for more fuel, and that minimizes the risk in instances where we run short from the external suppliers whose own risks we cannot control. So let me give an example. We said we normally operate on the base. The total capacity in the airport is possibly right now around 8 days of supply, right? So we have a system, and in the aviation industry it's understood, that we must never get to 3.5 days of supply. That's almost equivalent to that 3.5 I was saying earlier. So here's the danger. When we get to 5 days of supply, we normally ring the alarm bells and tell all of you, oops, we look like there is a challenge in supply because we're not getting more supplies coming in. And what we've done now is we've increased that to about 10 from that, so that that additional capacity allows us to be secure for about 10 days without worrying altogether. And that is what we've done on our side. What we've also looked at is a connection that will come via Jameson Park, which is Transnet owned, that will provide an additional connection that creates for greater efficiency to Natrev, which is the Sasol plant, that will then give us additional capability as well. So with that plan in place, we surely have done the best we can to minimize any future risks. I might hasten to add, though, that the risks in the fuel industry are literally totally beyond our control, some of them. This week, we got a notification from Total. They had declared a force majeure. I happened to be in Mozambique at the time, And I was told the force majeure has actually been declared in Mozambique, where Total is basically based. So there are things that happen in the region, like a company declaring a force majeure, that we really have tried to mitigate against, but in essence, there's very little we can do. But from a passenger and an airline perspective, we assure everyone with the bypass, with the 18-inch, with the 20-inch, with the fuel storage increase, very, very simply, we've minimized any chance of disruptive occurrences. The other, just to finalize, is also getting into predictive maintenance on the systems, and that's what we're working with people like CSIR. So we can tell inside the infrastructure, you can imagine jet fuel is right underneath, but we must be able to say, that pipe looks like it's starting to show signs. Can we prioritize it in the CAPEX program so that we minimize the risk of any disruption? So all of those efforts are things we've worked on. We've taken this very seriously. It's unacceptable that we can have the levels of disruption that we've had, but more importantly, with the underlying infrastructure that's old and aging like we had, that incident happened, it required us then to respond positively. A comprehensive plan that's intended to fix it. I tell the jet fuel story a lot. Please forgive me, Program Director, because I know there are a whole lot of people interested in it. And I also know that we've had major interactions around this. So I'm trying to answer even questions that haven't been asked about it so that there's absolute clarity that we know what we're doing in jet fuel and we've provided the solutions that we need. On the issue of construction on cargo midfield, I indicated in my input that we have now started and approved for the enablement works. And the enablement works is simply getting the land, removing the taxiway, reallocating the pipes so that you start. So what it means is that the cargo midfield is now starting on the roll because the enablement works are now starting. So I hope that answers that question. The passenger terminal will follow the cargo terminal. They don't happen at the same time. So cargo will happen now, and around 28, 29, we're clicking into the passenger one. The rule at ACSA is we don't trigger CAPEX unless it meets the 7-year rule. That means 7-year projections show that now you're going to need this capacity in 7 years, and therefore you start it then. It's just a formula for economic regulation. You can't build white elephants. You build when you know you're 7 years in advance for needing something. Alternative fuels, we're very, very excited by the potential that this is going to bring. We've started with 2 programs. One is we're looking at SAF, as in Sustainable Aviation Fuel, and are linking up to the global network through ACI Africa and ACI World. The rest of the continent and the rest of the world are asking the questions, what are SAF-based hybrid aircrafts going to do when they get here and they can't refuel? And there are already routes that are designated SAF routes. So we're starting to look at that, and we will look at the biofuel-based SAF in South Africa, but I must just caution a bit. We just seem to be slower as a country around production of biofuel-based, slower than countries like Brazil and others because of high water table, and we have less biomass in South Africa to be disposed. Biomass would come from sugar cane, mollusk, and those kind of plants. We're a dry country, and we're not so well endowed with those things. But SAF will happen. The one we're more excited about is 2 years ago, we started a partnership with the Department of Science and Innovation, and that Department of Science and Innovation has made us the pilot project for hydrogen. There's a hydrogen corridor. It starts at Polokwane Airport, passes over Tambo, and goes to King Shaka International. We've presented ourselves as ACSA. We are a pilot. We manage jet fuel. We know how to manage fuel safely. We're regulated. We propose you make us the pilot site for hydrogen, and therefore we have been designated the pilot for hydrogen in those 3 airports along the corridor, and that means we'll be starting with hydrogen production. The first thing we know from the aircraft manufacturers is they have confirmed they will not be a hydrogen hybrid aircraft before 2035. Between now and 2035, we are going for the operating systems to be transferred to hydrogen. Baggage system, tugs, buses, all sorts of operating systems on the airport platform can start being transferred to hydrogen before we get to 2035. Very exciting program. It makes us best in class. We also talk about this globally because I think the rest of the world is not quite well endowed around the hydrogen issue. Finally, SMMEs. The 21.7 billion is a program that's structured for CAPEX. Importantly, our program for transformation aims to empower SMMEs and make sure they are the primary beneficiaries. We set targets across sectors for SMME achievement, and we monitor very closely. So in the construction sector, we monitor the technology, in the security environment, in all our delivery environments, we manage how much SMMEs are benefiting and whether we're meeting our transformation programs, our transformation targets in those areas. We also then have support in the company that also includes supporting SMMEs in various ways. We provide enterprise development, we provide supplier development management, et cetera, and a whole range of programs that are intended to give SMMEs the opportunity also to bid and participate in this. We are particularly at this point concerned about the limited participation of youth, and that then becomes our focus in the next year. So we can ensure it's really young people, and we're quite concerned, in fact, that the young people are not even showing up in the technology area. We would think they would, and they're really not. The young people-owned companies are not showing up in our IT space, where there is a lot of opportunity, and there will be a lot of CAPEX spent in the IT space, including in the operations space. But we'll go out there, look for them, find them. Last year, we were obsessed about women, and we think we're okay now with women. We've had a surge of women participation in certain of the areas of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, CE, for very comprehensive and detailed. And as you're saying, these are things that you ponder on a daily, and of course have to have the confidence in the stakeholders that this is a well-run network, and any concerns that they have are addressed adequately. That question was from Lisa Rolani, or was it Khokhani? Hey, being South African, because sometimes you never know. I hope I didn't butcher your name, Lisa, but thank you for that. Let's move on now to George Ahlanga, who's an employee, wants to know, what does this great performance mean for employees? And I think before we do that, may I open to the floor? I was going to say, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you, everybody get a car. Before we go to the employees, please can I open the floor to members of the media? Any questions that you may have, and you may need to go back to the office and file. I understand the pressures. So please identify name, surname, designation, and give us your question. We've got roving mics, just by an indication of hands where you are, so our ushers can find you. Any questions from the members of the media and the audience that is present, the live audience that is present here today? If there are no questions on the floor or while you're making notes, let's go to George Hlanga. And Mduduzi Madlala says, what's the normalized preferred shares allocation for the respective years, COVID years? And this would show a clear trajectory on the financial year 2025. This is very gibberish to me, CFO. It sounds like French, so maybe you can take that one in what the normalized preferential share allocation is for the year. Do you want to take George as well?
Well, you've taken the thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, look, what it really means for employees is that this year we have a bonus year. Staff. The second bonus year running, and we really believe ACSA is built on the strength of our people, and it is really the hard work of our people, and we reward them generously. The formula for determining this is known to all staff. It's not a secret, and I'm sure all of you can now take out your calculators. You saw the numbers, and you can try and work out. But we are a reasonable company, we're a generous company. We understand that, in fact, We stand proudly on your shoulders, and we are just representatives of all your hard work. And I am certain, with the approvals being finalized, with the announcements of the results, that all staff would be awarded or recognized for their effort in this great financial year that we've ended of 24-25. I'm certain of that. But what also means, colleagues, is that we need to remain committed. We need to remain on the path we have designed in our strategy. We need to remain committed to continuing with the resilience that the company has showed, providing shareholder value, but more importantly, we need to remain committed to doing this clean, together. Clean audit must be the outcome of it. And that doesn't come from us, the leadership. It comes from all of us combined in the way that we'll conduct this business. There's nothing as painful as achieving what we've had, from dividends to profits, etc. Then you find that the way in which we have done it is actually leaves a lot to be desired. So that's our next challenge. So we'd like to reward staff, but we also like to challenge you for a year ahead that actually helps us to achieve good governance, excellent execution, and real continued value for shareholders.
I would have thought there'd be a round of applause for the bonus. I suppose it's just one of those things. Thank you so much, CEO. CFO?
Yeah, so if I may just respond to the normalized preference share. So I think what distorts the number in the previous year is what CE mentioned earlier, that we did not pay preference shares dividends since COVID. And we had agreed then with the holder of the preference share that would accrue, and as soon as then we become profitable as an entity, we would then pay the preference share. And this really also speaks to the principle of paying bonuses once we make profits as an entity. So last year, it was our first year that we declared a profit, and as a result, it was our first year that we then honored the preference share dividends that we had accrued but not paid. Now, in the current year, the 198 preference share, and again, because we've caught up on the accrued preference share last year, what we've paid in the current year just relates to what has been accrued only in the last 12 months. So what you will see going forward is really just the 198 plus minus preference share that we'll be paying going forward, because then there's no accrued preference share that we are bringing from the previous year, because we've already settled that. But what is more interesting, I think, in regards to dividends, is what we pay the ordinary share dividends, which is usually around the 10% of our EBITDA, and that's what we really would like to commit going forward. As indicated from the graph that I presented, that ACSA is one of the few SOEs that have always paid ordinary share dividends back to the shareholder, and we really want to commit to that and create value for our shareholders. It so happens that the preference share was also issued by the shareholder, so it's a double benefit for our shareholder to get both the preference share dividend and an ordinary share dividend.
And the Mail and Guardian echoes that sentiment on Twitter or X, and it says that ACSA is exemplary of a state-owned entity that is both financially, operationally well managed. But here's the question then: how well are you insulated for turbulence ahead, particularly when it comes to market conditions that are outside of your control?
I mean, if you look at COVID, which is a good example, during COVID, we were then hit by an unexpected pandemic. But what we did as an entity was to quickly implement intervention strategies. One, to cut down on cost, and that actually allowed us to float as an entity. Most entities really struggled. In fact, we did not even have business rescue from our shareholders during the COVID years. You would expect that an entity like ACSA that had no traffic at all would then be one that qualifies or that would then go for business rescue. But because of the interventions that we took as an entity, to say, hang on a second, let's cut down costs because there's no top line until such time that we are then back to on our feet and we are sustainable. Hence, we are now starting to capacitate. And those are the interventions that as an entity like ACSA, we then implement immediately once we are then hit by those turbulences. There are certain environments or factors that are out of our control, as indicated by the CE, but those that are certainly in our control, we are quick to respond to.
All right, I hope that satisfies the person who posed that question. There's one CE that says, or from Vuyom T, says, well done on the SME program. I am 35 years old and I'm working on one of the infrastructure projects. As a result of the targets set by ACSA, truly a game changer for our business. Thank you, CE. All right, let's go back to the media. I believe we have my colleagues in the media who are ready with questions, or there we go. Please identify yourself and your publication. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. This is Hein Schenk from Netwerk 24. One of the themes of your presentation has been, it's obviously been a humbling year in terms of operational challenges, but like you mentioned, for example, with the jet fuel, you guys have addressed it and stuff. I just wanted clarity. One of the other operational issues that you guys experienced was specifically at OR Tambo with the domestic terminal and its security services. Has that dispute been resolved or has it been mitigated? Just some update on how that's been going. Thanks.
Can I take that one?
All right, the second question, Steve, then we can wrap it up. Is there anybody else? Oh, there we go. The lady there in second last row at the back.
Hi, my name is Solofelo. I'm from Future Families.
We can't hear you. Please speak louder.
Can you just stand up?
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, my name is Solofelo. I'm from Future Family. My question is that what were the major challenges faced by ACSA during the reporting period and how did the company address them?
So what are the challenges? Sorry, Tsulu, you speak so quickly. We hardly heard what you said. Yeah.
What were the major challenges faced by ACSA during the reporting period and how did the company address them?
All right, thank you. I think the challenges during the reporting period.
I don't know.
And the other one had to do with the labor dispute. Do you want to take that, see?
All right. Can I take those?
Yes, please.
Can I proceed now? Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much for the question to the gentleman at the back around the security insourcing program that faced challenges of transition. And that was basically excuse me, a decision that had been taken to implement what is called a security zone strategy, which determines that in certain parts of the ACSA business, given that it's a national key point, you can't employ unverifiable people, if we may, unvetted, unverifiable people. It then led to a designation of certain areas to only be ACSA employees. The transition then from privately owned security company employees to ACSA security is then what the glitch was about, given the CAA requirements for certification for screeners, which is a standard. We also had a challenge with the security companies themselves not giving up the information related to employees who had now found a job in the insourcing element. And that transition was untidy, to say the least. We have acted on it. We have even taken consequence management on it. And we have corrected those arrangements to ensure, one, that we get to full 100% compliance of the screeners in every area, in the airports that were affected, because it wasn't every airport. In certain airports, it was really smooth. It was OR Tambo. And to ensure that the unqualified screeners are basically not deployed in the areas where the certification is required. But car parks, somewhere else where screening certification is not required, they can be used. So there was quite a lot of movement of people around to ensure full compliance with CAA. And CAA has been, in addition to that, there was training by our training academy to ensure that those people can be brought up to speed, or those who were in the process of doing so were completed. And therefore, CAA periodically has done, I think they've come back once at least, to reassess the situation and then indicate their satisfaction with it. So that problem, again, is something that we didn't anticipate, but we've managed it through. And that will happen, will be settled, and it will probably never happen again, because the transition from the old arrangements to the new model, recognizing sensitive national key point areas, is done, and we'll never do it again. I think the issue related to the impact on passengers is something we regret, and more importantly, what we're able to say to passengers is they must just work with us until we resolve that, and it was resolved in the end. But it was a difficult transition, and something that may have been planned better, as we say, and that planning better would have probably required, if you just ask now that they say foresight is now is 2020, now we're wiser after the event, probably would have required a transition period of about 6 months where you double that capacity and don't try and transition it at once. And that would have actually worked out better as a plan, but that's not what was on the table. So yes, largely that issue has been dealt with. The next question about challenges. The challenges in the review period. I would have hoped that throughout our presentation we've been able to deal with them, but let me just assist as a top priority. What we did indicate is that we've started to face challenges on our infrastructure, which would show a deteriorating infrastructure that required preventative maintenance and the ability to do targeted investments in that infrastructure to prevent incidences such as jet fuel or anything of the sort happening. So jet fuel was our major one. It happened in this financial year in December. We had another challenge which is not related to us, but related to BMA, when the transition from the one system of BMA to the new biometric system also didn't happen as smoothly as they required, and that also happened in December. But we assisted BMA, we brought everything back on operations. In fact, they went back to the old system and went back to the drawing board about the new one. They are still there, they're going to come back much later with a biometric one that did work. The other challenge, I think, was just this mismatch between where we are running projects and where infrastructure is showing weaknesses. And that mismatch, again, the lesson we've learned, we should have much better asset management, predictive maintenance programs that just dictate what projects we do first, rather than doing projects because they are scheduled. Do the ones that are going to impact negatively or going to result in disruptions. As we roll out, we've had an engagement here in this very room with the airlines. We're absolutely clear about the airlines' priorities so that we make that our first priority in relation to passenger-facing, airline-facing interventions on infrastructure first before prioritizing other long-term, maybe commercial projects on the platform. And that's, I think, the biggest lesson that we've learned. But we look forward to a great year ahead, innovation, technology, and the implementation of our strategy that takes us forward. So we've got more to look forward to than to look back as just lessons learned that have taught us how to perfect the system and really produce the financial results that you see today. Thank you.
So there's your article written already. You just need it approved by your news editor, as the CEO had responded, as she does in full detail. Any other questions from social media, please indicate, and also from the audience. We don't want to keep you longer than necessary. And at the rate that we're going CE and CFO, it looks like we've had tailwinds because this aircraft is about to land ahead of schedule, almost an hour. Wow. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to call on As we thank a CE and CFO for their presentations today and sharing the good news and where the company is seeing itself going, we'd like to give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you so much, CEO. After you.
I think it would be amiss if we didn't thank the teams that have led this. I really think it would be amiss, and I hope I'm not taking the thunder away from, but I just think at our level, I would like the group executives who are here with us to just stand up. I'm sure you'll be thanked later in the proper vote of thanks. But from us, myself and the CFO, we don't work alone. This is a wonderful team that helps us to execute all of this. And I'd like them to stand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. So Laurie Liss is the Group Executive for Corporate Services, and she will be doing the vote of thanks. And again, a reminder to please utilize this exquisite venue that is state-of-the-art for your events going forward. She's part of the team who will also put together the event. So I'd like to thank you as you welcome her to the podium. That is Laurie Liss.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and once more another round of applause, not just for the executive team, but to yourselves, and certainly under the leadership of our CEO, Mpumi Mpofu. None of this would have been possible. So today, as we come together to celebrate this remarkable milestone of achieving a 1.1 billion net profit, I want us all to pause for a moment and reflect on what truly lies behind the numbers. CEO and others, you have reflected on that. These impressive figures are not just lines on a financial report or a point of pride on a balance sheet. So behind every single rand of that 1.1 billion is the daily dedication, the passion, and the hard work of each and every individual who makes our airports what they are. Behind those numbers are the 1.1 billion parts, the logistical processes that continue to move all the time, 24/7, and the tireless hands that ensure passengers fly seamlessly to their destinations. And behind them are the careful eyes sorting and moving your baggage, your luggage, the welcoming smiles from our customer service teams, the availability of a trolley, a simple trolley, when they are needed most, and the steadfast presence of security personnel who keep us all safe and secure. Each role, no matter how big or small it may seem, is vital in the aviation management value chain. And without this collective effort, there would be no story to tell, no milestone to celebrate today. So this profit is more than just a number. It is a reflection of our people's unwavering commitment, our spirit of teamwork, and our resilience in the face of challenges. And together, we are not merely moving forward. We're not merely moving planes. We are moving a nation forward. So as we celebrate this achievement, let us remember that behind every number is a person, a story, and a purpose. At that point, could I have the team, the whole team, who put this together, at least come to the front so we can really thank them. And from the bottom of our hearts at ACSA, thank you for your dedication, your hard work, and your belief in our shared mission. On behalf of Airports Company South Africa, let me extend our deepest gratitude to you, our distinguished guests, representatives from the Department of Transport, government officials, shareholders, valued industry partners, our board of directors, executives of ACSA, and members of the media for honoring us with your presence today. Your continued partnership, your guidance, and your support remain central to ACSA's success story, and together we will continue to soar even higher. The team, where are you? They're scared, they don't want to come up. Right, thank you, there they are. Thank you very much. Please enjoy, and there's lunch being served.
Thank you so much, Laurie, the Group Executive for Corporate Services. There is also 2 videos that we'd like for you to pay attention to, and these speak to the milestones, the investment that has been made, and the returns on those investments. So I'll just ask the technical crew to please play that video for us, which will be followed by the summary of the financial results as presented today. And then I will come back and then announce the lunch break as we conclude. Thank you. Well done, Team ACSA. Well done, Team CE, Team CFO. Some fun facts about ACSA. By the way, just do yourself a favor when you're scrolling. Just look at the developments across the airports. You'll be amazed at number one, the capacity in terms of the longest runway. And these are just figures that are of world record, South Africa. Be proud, okay? One in Kimberley, for example, can even land a spacecraft, okay, which was designed for a Boeing 747. But there's many other examples of the excellent work that has been done throughout the reporting period and beyond. So I'd like to thank you all. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you for the opportunity, CE and your team. And everybody else, thank you as well for participating and engaging with us. Lunch is served. I'm not going to stand between you and your hunger and sustainability and your enjoyment. So please go out, enjoy, and thank you again for your collaboration and partnership. Thank you.